Thanks for joining me for part 2 of my portrait workshop. I've allowed my painting to dry for about 15 minutes, and now I'm starting to work on the darkest parts of the hair. I've mixed a combination of brown, purple, and blue to create a deep gray. I'm painting the darkest parts next because it helps me sort of organize the main shapes in his hair. Then, when I add medium grays later, I'll know where to put them and what direction they're arranged. Rowen's hair was kind of frizzy in the reference photo, so I'm simplifying the main shapes a bit. It will still look a little unruly, but I don't want to drive myself crazy duplicating every single hair. And as someone who has to deal with frizzy hair a lot, I can assure you that nobody minds if you make their hair look a little less insane. And I'm starting out using a number 1 round brush, but later I will switch to a number 6 round brush whose bristles are fuzzy and destroyed. The small brush is for accuracy, and the fuzzy brush is for texture. Most of the darkest shapes are on the top of his head and moving toward the right side of the painting. The light is coming from the left, so that side of his hair doesn't require lots of dark shapes. Now I'm using that destroyed brush. The angle of the camera is making it tough to understand what's going on here, but you'll be able to see it soon. The fuzzy bristles create a lot of random lines, and this makes a texture that is very hair-like. I also use this brush to paint fur, grass, moss, and textures like that. I tend to hold the brush upright and use a minimal amount of paint. I'm just sort of dusting the surface of the paper with it. I've mixed another dark brownish gray, and I'm adding some darkness to his eyebrow with both brushes. Next, I'm making the first of several passes that will define the structure of his eyelid, and I'll start blocking in the shadows around it. This gets dramatically darker very quickly, and I've added some cadmium red light to the area near his nose. Sometimes you'll see me pause for a few seconds. That usually means I'm about to paint something hard and I'm thinking about it first. In this case, it's the complex of wrinkles and shadows under his eyelid. The wrinkles move out diagonally in one direction, while his eyelashes cast shadows that go in the opposite way, and I'm just starting to make that happen. The shadow by his nose gets a similar treatment, maybe not quite as dark as the one around his eyelid. Sometimes when I use this brush, it's almost like I'm drawing, and I'm continuing to add definition to the small eye. Now it's back to the other eye, and I'm building up the dark some more. Today I'm working on Langton 140-pound cold-press paper, and my paint tends to dry a shade or two lighter than when it was wet. So I find myself going over my darks repeatedly to achieve the kind of bold colors I want. This could be annoying to some, but I kind of like it because it ensures that I almost never make fatal mistakes by getting too dark. I have to put forth a lot of effort to create super dark areas that are impossible to correct. I loved painting this red line down the center of his nose. I'm using my standard skin tone mix with a little extra yellow, orange, and pink. And again, this won't be the last time I paint it. I've mixed some orange and purple for his mouth. His beard casts a dark shadow on his lips, so they're a lot darker than I would normally paint a man's mouth. So this part feels a little weird to me, especially since the beard isn't close to being done. I left an area of lightness around his bottom lip. I'm going to spend some time intensifying skin tones. I think older faces are easier to paint with watercolor because I can paint in patches, and the edges of these patches suggest wrinkles. When I paint children with perfect unwrinkled faces, patches don't work as well. I usually wet down big areas or sometimes the entire face with water before I add new colors and shadows, and that takes time and patience. And finally, I've mixed some dark brown and I'm using my fuzzy brush as I continue to define the beard. You can really start to see the masking fluid lines pop out. And this concludes part 2. Part 3 is shorter, and I'll continue to add details to his face.